morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Happy MPA Monday. Today is pretty neat to have an MPA Monday because it's also a king tide today. So as we get closer to the water, we'll actually see those massive waves. Good morning, Kathy. We'll go ahead and start our stroll in about another minute. For those of you just joining on, welcome. Happy MPA Monday. Today is also pretty special because we have a king tide as well. This is our first king tide of 2021. King tides essentially are just really high tides, and they happen about 2 to 3 times a year. We had one in November, one in December. Some of you maybe even got to see our special king tide event that we had in December. You can find that on the California State Park's Facebook page if you want to tune back to that. And then we have our third one, which is this one here, happening today and tomorrow. The high tide this morning was at 8:30, so it's just receding now, or it has been rather for an hour or so. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone, Robin here from California State Parks. Welcome for another MPA Monday live stream. We're here at Estero Bluffs State Park, which is a beautiful park. It's a great view shed of a very large area. You can see Morro Rock from here. You can see a lot. It's pretty fantastic. It's just north of the town of Cayucos, and we're on the Central Coast. So we're right in the San Luis Obispo Coast District, about 3 hours north of Los Angeles, 3 hours south of San Francisco. And you can see that I am wearing a mask because I am in a public space. So just to keep myself as well as others around me safe, I'm going to leave this on, but I will give you a quick glimpse of my face. So for those of you who have not yet seen it, in past MPA Monday live streams, there it is. I'll go ahead and flip this camera so you can see a much better view. So again, we're here at Estero Bluffs State Park, just north of Cayucos. You can actually see that pier right there. That is the Cayucos Pier, and that, you can see a little bit of the town there with those buildings. Good morning, Robert. Good morning, Joan. Good morning, Jean. Mariana loves MPA Monday. Me too, Mariana. Me too. You can see it's another beautiful day. Beautiful hills in the background. And this tide is quite high. Again, the high tide this morning was at 8:30, so it's receding now, so it was much higher earlier. Might start to get a little bit loud. I don't know if I've ever seen it quite that submerged, so it's a pretty impressive tide here. For those of you who didn't catch it earlier, today is also a king tide. It's our first king tide of 2021. We had one in November, one in December, and this is our third. There's typically 2 to 3 a year. They usually always happen in the winter season. Estero Bluffs, as you can see, is a really special park because we have some pretty killer views. You may be able to even see more rock. Yep, there it is in the distance there. You can even see the 3 stacks in Morro Bay, California. The town just south of Cayucas. And Estero Bluffs stretches for quite a distance. It's actually a pretty large network of hiking trails here, so you can walk and jog for quite a ways with some pretty amazing views the whole time. Alice is on here. Good morning, Alice. Thanks for joining us. Visiting from Grover Beach. Stu says, Happy King Tide New Year. Good morning, Stu. Such a beautiful day today. Go ahead and let you enjoy the sights and sounds for just a moment. Alice on here is asking if dogs are on leash, are allowed on leash, and yes, yeah, you can have dogs on these trails here as long as they are on leash. Good question, Alice. So again, happy MPA Monday. In case you were wondering, what we're looking at right now is actually not an MPA, but what we do have near us is an MPA just to the south, so just in Morro Bay, just past the rock here. We actually have 2 MPAs, and just to the north of us, just near the boundary of Harmony Headland State Park, which is the state park to the north of us, we have an MPA there that reaches up into Cambria as well. So what we have here is a little sandwich, an MPA to the north and an MPA to the south. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what an MPA is, it's much like an underwater park. So it's a protected space in the ocean. And for a long time we never really had anything like that. Those of us, oh my gosh, look at that wave. For those of us who have been to parks, which is most of us, right? Most of us love parks. I love parks so much, I work at a park. And parks are great, right? We can see beautiful sights like this. We can see wild vegetation, we can often see wildlife. And I will definitely keep my eyes peeled for any wildlife and make sure to zoom in on it if I can and share it with you guys. But parks are great, and for a long time we never really had anything like that in the ocean. And that's what's so cool about MPAs, is because we're able to protect these spaces in the ocean. The wildlife that's there, the entire ecosystem, how they interact with each other. So for those of us who enjoy even just walking on the coast or on a bluff like this near the ocean, it's very beneficial because the wildlife thrive, which in turn makes our visits more pleasurable, right? But you're probably wondering, well, if there's not an MPA here, how on earth does this space benefit? Well, it actually benefits from something called the spillover effect. Sorry, it's getting quite windy, so if you can't understand me, feel free to leave any questions or comments down below. But that spillover effect is where wildlife is spilling over into adjacent areas. So you can think of MPAs much like charging stations. They're just pumping life into our oceans. For example, fish are able to produce more offspring, and when those offspring become large in numbers, then they'll spill over into the adjacent waters of the MPA, therefore just pumping our oceans filled with life, which is pretty fantastic. You can see those waves in the distance. Oh my goodness. So what's so cool about this spot is not only is the land here protected, but the water, even though it's not protected, is benefiting from surrounding protected areas. Let's go ahead and continue our walk here. Typical California view with the dry brush here. State park crews are really good at doing fire prevention here though. So knock on wood, thank goodness we haven't had any issues here. But come springtime, this is going to be gorgeous. Green with wildflowers. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. This is beautiful as well. But I'll make sure to do a springtime Estero Bluffs walk because it is pretty spectacular. You can actually see in the distance there, you can see a little dark patch. That's actually part of the fire prevention. And they call it a prescribed fire, a prescribed burn. And it's basically like a prescription. An area looks like it needs some extra fertilization, maybe some weed abatement. You can see that dark patch there. Is it helping to enrich the soil more so, but it keeps the brush down in case it becomes too dry, possibly too hot, and windy like it is now. Definitely not hot today, but it is windy. Good morning, Omar. The water is so beautiful today. Look at those waves. So for those of you who live near a coastline, I highly recommend that you check it out because it's king tides. Again, it only happens maybe 2 to 3 times a year. So to be able to witness the king tides is pretty fantastic for several reasons. One, it's just very striking. then two, if you're interested in community science or any form of volunteering, you can look up the California King Tides Project. And they have something called Snap the Shore, See the Future. So you can take a picture of the coastline near you and send it off to them. And the whole idea, the premise behind it, is that looking at the king tides allows us to get a glimpse into what future sea level rise will look like. Because the king tides that we have now will become our future high tides tomorrow. And so thank goodness we don't have any infrastructure here. We don't have any condos or businesses that could be affected. Other areas in the state of California, that is definitely not the case, but this is a special place here where we don't have any buildings, but we do have other things that could be in trouble. For instance, the black oyster catcher is a beautiful black bird with a bright orange bill and pink legs. Some of you may have seen it or be familiar. That black oyster catcher actually likes to hang out in the intertidal zone, which is the tide pools. And what they'll actually do is they'll lay their eggs directly on top of the rocks. They don't have any nest of any kind. There's no even sticks to help support that egg. They just put the egg directly on top of the rocks. And you can imagine, like I said, high tide was at 8:30 today, so the tide is now receding, but that tide came up quite a bit. You can actually see the water line right there. So all of those rocks that we see in the distance, if there were any eggs on those rocks, those eggs would have gotten washed away. So taking a glimpse at our king tides helps us to better understand how to prepare for the future. That goes for infrastructure, for economies, businesses, maybe even residences, and also for our environment, how we can help protect the environment from these future high tides. So it's a really neat thing. Go ahead and check it out, California King Tides Project. Snap the shore, see the future. Again, if you are in a local area, if you live near a coastline, maybe take a quick trip, snap a picture, and submit it to the California King Tides Project. This helps them to better understand up and down the California coast what king tides look like. Good morning, Holly. Thanks for joining us. Happy MPA Monday. Good morning, Ron. Again, we're here at Estero Bluffs State Park, right smack dab in the beautiful Central California coast on the San Luis Obispo Coast District. Someone asked last week if we have these videos on YouTube, and we do not have the capability to do YouTube Live just yet, but I will be uploading these videos onto YouTube. For those of you who have friends or family who don't have Facebook, you can direct them to our YouTube page, which is San Luis Obispo Coast District. You can find a playlist there called MPA Monday. You will hopefully be able to find those videos on there. So far we've just got one from last week. Yeah, I know a lot of people, myself included, actually don't really use Facebook. So if you want to check it out somewhere else, you can find it on that YouTube page, San Luis Obispo Coast District. So if anybody has any last questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. If you're watching this after the live, feel free to drop those comments in or questions, and I will respond to those. I love talking to you guys. Again, I would much prefer to have you all out here enjoying the breeze and the warm sun with me. I am wearing a coat, so it's not that warm, but it is still sunny and it feels great. I would definitely love to have you guys out here, but this is the best that we've got. Ron is saying, is that a shark? Definitely gonna look. I don't see anything just yet. These waves are so massive. Thank you so much for joining me today. Might actually just leave this on for a minute or so because it's absolutely stunning. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Always loving hearing from you all. Again, happy MPA Monday, happy King Tides. How amazing is it that they fell on at the same time? I'm so happy I could share this with you all. Again, my name is Robin. You can tune in on Mondays to join in for an MPA Monday stroll somewhere along the San Luis Obispo Coast District. And again, now you can find it on our